Okay, so that first video, I forgot to share my screen during the first part, so let's do take two. So again, we're going to start with the problem that we didn't get through in class today. So that's this problem here. So we're looking at profits versus the amount you charge per ticket. So the amount of money you make is your profit, that's your Y. The amount of money you charge for tickets is your X value. We're going to run, again, a quadratic, not linear regression. Write down our best fit equation. We're going to graph our equation, and then we're going to determine what the charge per ticket should be to maximize the profit. In other words, what X value gives me my maximum Y value. So this time I'm going to actually share my screen so you can see my calculator and follow along. So here we have our calculator interface. And again, this is the sort of home page of your calculator, and it won't look exactly like this because of course yours is all on one thing and not on a computer. But from here, in order to do my first thing, which is to input the data, I need to, of course, press stat, and then it's already hovered over the edit button. So all I need to do is press enter. And then I'm going to enter in my data. So this is the data from the page. From the problem. So note that L1 is going to be your X values because we typically do X values before Y values. So I have my L1 values here and my L2 values here. So first step, let's get the data inputted correctly. So if you need to, press pause, get this data inputted into your calculator. If you have other data in here and you need to clear it out, the way you do that is by pressing delete. Now, how you get the data back is you have to go back and input it in again. So I'll have to go back and do that. So I need to put 2600, 6500, and 2600, and 6500, and 8600, and 8900. 7441. So again, if you needed to clear out the data, that's how you do it. Another thing to note here on like how you know that this is going to be quadratic is because we see that our data actually starts low, goes high, and then decreases again. In other words, we know our data is going to look like a rainbow, right? An upside down U. So this tells us that it's a quadratic function because quadratic functions are really the only ones where you see like this increase then back down to decrease. So just a little information there for you. Of course, we also know it's quadratic because we're in the quadratic unit. So once I've inputted my data, the next thing I want to do is, of course, make sure you do this. Some of you have already done it, but you want to make sure that your stat plot is on. So that's second y equals. On this one, it should say plot one ... on. If it doesn't, you need to change it by pressing enter and highlighting the on and pressing enter again. That turns it on. Once it's on, you can go back out by doing second mode, which quits and goes back to your home page. So that's how I input the data, make sure my stat plot is on. Now I need to actually get my equation. Back to our favorite button, stat, except for now I'm going over to calc. So to do that, I right arrow over, and you'll see that we have a bunch of options. But of course, since this is the quadratic unit, the regression I want to run is a quadratic regression. So I'm going to scroll down to number 5, press enter. And again, this should always look like this. X list should be L1, Y list should be L2. If it's not, you'll have to input them. So for example, if this doesn't say L1, if it were just blank like this, L1 is down here, it's in blue. In order to get L1, you have to press second and the 1 button. You'll see that to get L2, you would press second and the 2 button. So that's how you would get it on there. Scroll down, hover over calculate, press enter, and here is our lovely equation. So it gives us that the standard form of a parabola is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, which you should know. And it gives us the a, b, and c. All we've got to do is write this down. So the final equation is y equals negative 100x squared plus 2000x minus 1000. So that's our equation. To graph it, we input our equation that we just got into the y equals button. So you can go straight over to y equals and type in your equation here. So here is the equation typed in. Note that in order to get an x to show up, you need to press this button right here. It has an x, a t, a theta, and an n. So if you press it, and I'll just show you on this one here, if you press this button and x shows up. If you want to square that x, you can do it 2 ways. You can use this little caret and then scroll back down. You could also press this lovely x squared button. press this, it automatically squares it for you. So either way you want to do it, if you mess something up, press clear, it deletes the whole screen. So I've got my graph input. I've already made sure my stat plot is on. So the next thing to do is graph it. But before we graph it, we want to make sure our window is appropriate for our data. So just to remind you about the data. So over here, here's our data. We can see that we've got a X value ranging from about 0 to 20. And we've got a Y value that's in the thousands range, right? So I always kind of want to go a little bit under the Y axis so I can see my intercepts. And I want to go above where the maximum value is. So that is why I chose to do an X min of 0 and an X max of 20. My biggest X value was 17. And a Y min of negative 100 and a Y max of 10,000. The biggest Y value was 9,000. So if I go up to 10,000, I should be able to see the whole picture. And of course, you can change this. So if you end up accidentally, for example, inputting in 15 initially and graphing it, and then you're like, oh no, I can't see the rest of my graph, just go back to window, change the window. So really forgiving. But you want to be able to see your whole picture. So here's my whole picture. This is my graph. And now remember the last part of the problem was to find the ticket value that will maximize my profits. In other words, it's asking me for the X value of my maximum. So you might remember from class that the way to find the maximum from your calculator is by going to second trace. It pulls up this list of all the things that you can find on the graph. Of course, right now we're interested in the maximum. So we're going to scroll down to 4. And it first asks us left bound question mark. That's asking us to make sure we pick a point that's left of the maximum. So this is our little highlighted cursor. We need to make sure that guy is to the left of our maximum. Now, here is to the left. Here is to the left. All the way down here is also to the left. Any of these points could work as long as you're to the left of the point you're interested in, the maximum. So I'm going to press enter right here. And now it asks me to do right bound, which means it wants me to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to scroll over to the right of my maximum. Here is to the right. This point is also to the right. I could go all the way down to here and be to the right. Any of those points work. Once you're happy that you're on the right side of your maximum, press enter again. Then it asks us one more time, do you want me to guess for the maximum point in between these two values that you chose? And because I know my maximum point is in between these two values, I do want it to guess. So I'm going to tell it to guess by pressing enter. And it tells me the maximum is 9,000. In other words, the most money I can make using this model is $9,000. And that I need to do that by selling tickets at $10 per ticket. So that's how I can maximize my profit. So this is a nice way to see how you can sort of answer questions on a calculator that help you model real world situations.